How is it going, YouTube? Mo Sports Network back again today to talk about my number 8 team in my NFL preseason power rankings. Today we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, coming in at number 8 again in my rankings. Last year they were first place rather, in the NFC East, finishing 9-7. Pretty weak division last year, to say the least. But they won the division, made the playoffs, bowed out in the first round valiantly to the Seahawks. Nice effort by Josh McCown, and that brings us to this point where we talk about this season, how I think this team will do. Now, they're an interesting team because there are some holes on this team, but there are other parts that are incredibly strong, and I have a lot of faith in this team. But when we start, one of those spots where I have a lot of faith is the coaching staff in Doug Peterson, one of the few coaches currently active in the league to have a Super Bowl ring. And I think he is a very solid offensive head coach. Was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, came over to the Eagles. I think a lot of people were confused by the hire initially, and I think he's proved a lot of them wrong. I have a lot of faith in Doug Peterson as a head coach. I think he does a very good job year after year, although he only joined the the Eagles like 4 years ago. Already has a Super Bowl. So that's pretty solid. Really like Doug Peterson. He calls the plays. So this team really doesn't need to have an offensive coordinator. They do have an assistant head coach in Deuce Staley. Then their defensive coordinator is Jim Schwartz. He's been there for a while. His name has come up in certain head coaching offers and whatnot. But he's still going to be the defensive coordinator for this team. A pretty solid defensive coordinator, I would say. So a good coaching staff will definitely help this team succeed. We go straight into the offense now. We start with their quarterback and the reason why I think this team will be really good this year. If Carson Wentz can stay healthy, and that is what I am projecting because he did it last year until the playoffs, this team will be a playoff team. Carson Wentz, I think, is really good. I think when he is on, he is a top 10 quarterback. I think that's how good Carson Wentz is, and that's why I have this team as high as I do, mainly because of him. Quarterback has such a high weighting in how I evaluate teams, and I think Wentz is that good of a quarterback. And again, I just can't say enough good things about him. He's everything you want in a current day quarterback. He's mobile, but still has a strong arm. I think he's a good decision maker overall. The only question again with Carson Wentz, I think, is his injuries overall. And if he can remain to be healthy behind an offensive line, which I like a lot, and we're going to talk about that, it's going to be a good season for the Eagles. It always will when Carson Wentz is available. And then we get over to the running back group. So we have Miles Sanders as the starting running back. He was pretty decent last season, pairing with Jordan Howard here with the Eagles. 1 second. I need to check something real quick. All right, sorry, I'm back. I just had to respond to a quick message real quick there. Go back talking about the running backs. Miles Sanders overtook Jordan Howard for that starting job. Really big hype for Jordan Howard this year, especially fantasy-wise. He's going to be a little banged up to start the year, which will open up more room for Boston Scott and maybe Corey Clement, although he's kind of conceded that second running back spot to Boston Scott at this point. But I think those three guys are going to make a really good 1-2-3 punch as far as running backs go. I really like what I saw from Miles Sanders last season. I'm excited to see where he goes. I think he has pretty good potential this year in his second season with the Eagles. Now we look to the receiving group, which I like, but I don't like to begin the season. And I think this team will have a kind of slow start, although I think they have some winnable games at the beginning of the year. But especially in week 1, I think this team is going to start slower than other teams, kind of because of their receiver situation. Alshon Jeffrey and Jalen Reagor are big question marks of if they'll be healthy. I don't think either of them are necessarily going to be ready to go week 1, which leaves you with Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and Greg Ward as your main starting receivers, which that's kind of what this team had to deal with down the stretch last year anyways, with most of their receivers being injured. So I don't think this will be like a drop-off for Wentz by any means. But when they get Jeffrey and Reagor back, as well as John Hightower out of Boise, stay implemented into the offense more, I think this offense has a lot more potential than they had in previous seasons. I like Rager and Hightower more than like Nelson Aguilar, who this team let go, among other guys like Mac Hollins, I guess. It's overall, I think it's going to be a stronger group this year when everything is healthy, but I do think it will struggle at the beginning of the year and will pick up the pace. I think Jeffrey and Rager, I'm probably higher on Rager right now than Jeffrey, even as a rookie. But I think when both of them are back and healthy, this will be overall a pretty solid receiving group. And we move on to the tight ends, and I like the tight ends here a good bit too. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, probably one of the strongest tight end rooms I'd say in the league, top to bottom. Like obviously, I don't think Ertz is as good as Kelsey or Kittle or even like Andrews, but I think him paired with Goddard, I think both of them are very solid tight ends. I think Zach Ertz already is a top 5 tight end. I think Dallas Goedert has potential to be a top 10 tight end, and those two together, really dangerous. Along with Richard Rodgers, who in some time he had that big Hail Mary catch from Aaron Rodgers, but he's also a really good tight end. So I like the weapons when they're healthy for this team. But I think week 1, with Miles Sanders, Alshon Jeffrey, Jalen Rager, all as question marks if they're going to play extended time, it's going to be a struggle immediately there. And then we go to the offensive line, and there's like some question marks about how they're going to gel again, but I do like the offensive line. I think it's a top 10 line in the league, and I think it's going to help this team a lot. They obviously have Jason Kelsey, who I think is the best center in the league, and then they have Lane Johnson, who's a top 5 right tackle in the league. You can argue who's the best. I think it's probably still Lane Johnson. And then it's kind of average, the rest of it. I think Jason Peters coming back to play left tackle for this team again. I think he'll be okay. I think he's definitely taken a bit of a step back from his incredible play he's been up, but I think he'll be an average left tackle. I think he'll get the job done. And you have Isaac Siamalu. I don't think he's bad by any means. I think he's more of an average guard. And then Matt Pryor, I think losing Brandon Brooks is definitely going to hurt this team, but I don't think Matt Pryor is going to ruin it, especially wedged in between Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. I think those are the two best offensive linemen in the league if you have to be squished between someone to play next to. So I think they'll be fine. Obviously, losing Brandon Brooks isn't ideal, along with losing Andre Dillard, but I think this team will make do, definitely. I think they were probably the best offensive line in the league before losing Brooks, but I still think they'll be like around that like 10 range with Pryor and Siamalu starting now. So overall, if the weapons can get healthy, and that's really been the Eagles' problem for years on years after that Super Bowl run. I guess the last 3 years after that Super Bowl run, is keeping weapons healthy is going to be a big part of this team's success. If they can do that, I think this offense is going to be really good with Peterson and Wentz. So now we go into the defense, which I think is a lot of talent as well. We start with the defensive line, which I think is this defense's strong suit by a good margin. It is deep, and it is really good. So your starters, Derek Barnett, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham. You know about Cox and Graham. They have been outstanding for the Eagles. They were big part of the reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. Then they bring in Javon Hargrave from Pittsburgh, who had a very, very solid season there last year, and he comes in to play next to Fletcher Cox. Those two are going to be ridiculous next to each other. Then you have Derek Barnett, who has continued to grow into his own as an edge rusher. Paired with Brandon Graham, I think he is a solid number 2 guy. And definitely with the rest of the depth on his defensive line, I think he's going to be fresh a lot more often. And I think he's going to be really good. But then you're also real deep. You have Josh Sweat, who I think has the potential to start for this team as well if Barnett struggles. Kind of have liked what I've seen from him as well. You have Vinny Curry, who has proven to be a pretty decent edge rusher here with Philly. And then you have Malik Jackson, who is a starter. He should be a starter at defensive tackle. And this team is so solid at that spot that Malik Jackson isn't even starting. So that is really impressive on the defensive line, and I like what they have there a lot. So really good stuff overall on the defensive line. It's a bit weaker as far as the linebacking group goes. I think TJ Edwards, I was really high on him coming out of Wisconsin. He had a good PFF grade. I think he's going to continue to take steps forward for this Eagles linebacking group at Mike linebacker. And then you have Duke Riley and Nathan Jerry, who I'm definitely less high on. I don't think that's a hot take to say Duke Riley and Nathan Jerry aren't amazing. But I think the strong defensive line and I think parts of the secondary will be able to mask sort of a weakness at linebacker. Guys to look out for, I think. A guy to look out for that I think is fairly unknown is Davion Taylor, linebacker out of Colorado. I think he could get some playing time with this team. And he can perform pretty okay. Have like a Jermaine Pratt for the Bengals sort of season this year for him, not starting right away, but can kind of grow into a decent starter for the Eagles. And they at least have some depth there to rotate guys in and out at the least the linebacking group. So probably the weakest spot of the defense, in all honesty, but not the end of the world. I don't think it's the worst linebacking group in the league by any means. And then we go to the corner group. You got Big Play Slay. He's obviously a lockdown, probably top 10 corner when he's on it. Last year he did have some struggles at points, but I really like Darius Slay here to be this team's number one corner. He is replacing who left that he replaced. I can't believe I'm missing him. I'm just gonna pause it real quick and we're gonna find that out. So apologies real quick there. Ronald Darby was the name I'm thinking of. I think Darius Slay is an upgrade definitely from Ronald Darby. So solid there in the secondary. And then you have Rodney McLeod and Jalen Mills, which I think is probably a weaker corner or safety group. I'm just going down the line here as far as guys go. Especially since this team lost Malcolm Jenkins this offseason. Sorry about that delay again. I got another message I had to respond to. Of course, my luck when I'm tight with the deadline with all these videos. But yeah, losing him along with Darby, I think those two guys would be solid. Of course, but unfortunately, you can't keep everyone. Eagles obviously up against the cap with a lot of really good players signed. But I think Darius Slay definitely improves the secondary to an extent. I think Nickel Roby-Coleman is a pretty quality nickel corner. I think the main questions for this secondary is going to be how does Rodney McLeod, or Jalen Mills rather, step up and replace that spot lost by Malcolm Jenkins, and then how can Avonte Maddox continue to play because he has had his struggles in Philly. Can he step up and play that solid number 2 corner spot across from Darius Slay? All that being said, I do firmly believe that replacing or adding Darius Slay to this defense will make it better overall, and that's why I still have this team at number 8 in the league, despite some of their deficiencies in the secondary, replacing Slay with Darby. So that's that. On the team overall, you have Jake Perry. Cameron Johnston is the GOAT. Punter lives definitely matter. Cameron Johnston might end up winning you a game. That's how good I like him at punter. Probably he won't, but just wanted to shout out Cameron Johnston right there for the Eagles. So now we flip over to the schedule. And we're going to start, like I implied earlier, a bit of a slow start for this team. I think they lose to the Washington football team in their first game of the season. Just weapons banged up. Sanders, Jeffrey, Rager all potentially out. Defense trying to gel together for their first time. Shortened training camp. I think it bodes well for Washington and Ron Rivera. I think they can probably get this win. I think the Eagles, after that shocking loss, rattle off 2 against the Rams and Bengals, lose to a really good Niners team, and I think they beat the Steelers in the battle for Pennsylvania. I don't really know what you call that rivalry. And then lose the Ravens, and then they're going to rattle off 2 division games against the Giants and the Cowboys, who I'm super high on going into their bye week. Out of the bye week, I think they do split with the Giants this season, so I'm going to have the Giants taking that one against the Eagles in New York. Then I have them beating the Browns. I think they're better than the Browns. And then I have them beating the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. A bit of a revenge game for the playoffs last season. I think they were right there. If Carson Wentz was playing, I think they could have beaten the Seahawks last season in the playoffs, so I think the Eagles take that one. Then I think they lose to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. That's a tough one at Lambeau. I didn't know who to pick there, but I leaned Packers. Then I have them beating the Saints. I think in Philly, I think they can do it. I think they are talented enough. I think Carson Wentz can go toe-to-toe with Drew Brees. I think the Eagles can do it. And then I have them beating the Cardinals. And I have them losing to the Cowboys. I don't think they'll be able to sweep the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to be really good this year. And then I have them beating the Washington football team. They open with them in a loss, and I think they probably crush them pretty bad at the end of the season to finish the season at a total of 10-6 and a playoff matchup with the San Francisco 49ers in the first round. So I think it will be interesting for the Eagles this season to see if they can do that. I think they can definitely do better than this if all they'd have to do is beat Washington and New York twice, sweep them, and they could be a 12-win team. I'm not projecting that just because I think, again, this league is the closest this league has ever been. I don't think there are any... I think Washington and Jacksonville will be really bad, but other than those two teams, I don't think there's any truly bad teams in the league this year. And so that's why I have the Eagles sitting at 10-6. There's going to be a lot of parity, a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. I think this Eagles schedule exemplifies that a lot. But I think they will be good to make the playoffs at that record as the 8th best team in the league. So that has been all from me. If you liked the video today, make sure you press that like button. If you really liked it, make sure you subscribe. If you didn't like it, comment below. Tell me why. Love talking to you guys in the comments, debating about football. That's why I made this channel, is because I love to talk football. So that has been all from me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys next time with the number 7 team in my NFL power rankings. So thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.